I knew it was all settled and we had the tour and I got to see everything that I wanted to see. And all I had to do was write a check and show up at the airport. And normally I'm the one who always has to do all that stuff when I'm traveling with other people, so I'll think I could get used to this. Anyway, we saw everything. We saw everything as far as Aswan. And Aswan South, I guess it's very difficult for me to, even now, having been there.
North.
Yeah,
you can't get out of here unless
yes.
the
No, it's very, but you know, they're north of the equator. So because the river flows south, everything is, you know, into the Mediterranean. So what did we do? We went to Giza, we went to stay at the Mina House Hotel, we had coffee on the balcony watching the sun come up over the pyramids. A lifetime experience, believe me. And then we went to Alexandria because I really wanted to see the new library, which is, what did the guide say? It was something like 15 meters from the site of the original library in Alexandria. And guys, I'm telling you, if you're at all interested in libraries and you're at all interested in Egyptian history, that is where you want to go. But you should probably, you know, fly in and drive one time to the hotel and spend the rest of the time walking around the city, no matter how long it takes, because the traffic there is the worst I have ever experienced, including China. But the library itself is astonishing. They have really taken so much time and so much care and effort to make it a repository of the world's knowledge, and they have a fabulous website, and you can go in and make yourself a membership and have your own bookshelf there. And then they have a link that I told my photographer, some of you may know her, Sherry Northen, that they have a link where they are digitizing all, basically, of the world's maps in history. So she can go in there and noodle, and you can search them by date. So you can see what maps were extant as to what year, BC and AD. It's the most beautiful place. It is just stunningly gorgeous. And of course, there's a statue of Ptolemy I that they fished out of the harbor, standing in front, and it was the first library was his idea. So that was the thing that really knocked me sideways. And then after that, we flew to Aswan, and while I would not be so shallow as to suggest to you that you fly to Egypt just so you can stay in the Old Cataract Hotel, you probably should fly to Egypt and go to Aswan and stay in the Old Cataract Hotel. It is an amazing place, and our tour got screwed up because the president of Egypt was there staying in our hotel. In fact, he came out of the elevator as we were going up one day, and I said to Barbara, "That's President Susi." I know, she said. And he was like 6 feet from us. And there were security guys, very big guys, security guys standing around. We thought that, we didn't understand why they didn't get in between, us and, their president.
This was the moment when I realized that we were really two old women. No threat at all. It was so demoralizing.
I don't think that's the case at all. I said to Barbara, they probably know everything about us, chapter and verse. They probably know everything about everyone who's in this hotel, including us. They're not worried about us.
It's a gorgeous hotel, and for those who continue our literary theme, this is where Death on the Nile begins. Oh. This is where Agatha Christie stayed.
She wrote it.
Yep. And before the dam was built, the Aswan Dam, you could go, it's the first cataract, and you could then go south, Dana, not north, south to the second cataract, and that is the voyage in Death of the Nile, which is, being remade into a movie. Yeah. So it was great. We were imagining ourselves.
It was amazing, and our tour got screwed up because of the Aswan Forum, which is why the president was there, and the whole, when we landed at the airport, there was planes from Senegal, and all of the, not, I would say, private jets, but it, pulled up on the tarmac. You could tell that they were not civil jets. They were not passenger jets. There was one very important person on that jet. And then when we got off the bus and we met our guide, she explained to us there were things that we were on our schedule that we couldn't do because of this. We had chosen to come during the so that's one place that Barbara screwed up, except she didn't. Because we went right from the airport to the Aswan Dam, and as we're sitting there in the sun, enjoying ourselves, thinking, damn it, we're not going to be able to do this, that, and the other thing, Barbara looks over her shoulder and sees this temple on the opposite bank of the river, and says to our guide, "What's that?" And so the guide tells him, what was it, Barbara? It starts with a K. what's the name of the temple?
I can't remember, but it's
That's
no.
in
It's a Ptolemaic temple. Anyway, we got in a little boat and went across it's now Lake Nasser. See where the dam is. It's not the Nile then till you get up to the second cataract. It's now Lake Nasser.
And it's fabulous. And it wasn't even on our itinerary. The boat, we got a little boat ride.
I think it's Caracoa or something like that. But anyway, it was great. But tell them about our one adventure before we then moved to Alaska, where we went to the Red Pyramid.
Oh,
a moment of madness that overcame us.
Let me start off by saying that in Giza, our guide said she wouldn't come with us, but she wanted us to go inside the pyramid at Giza, the Cheops pyramid at Giza, Khufu pyramid at Giza, and we got about halfway up, and there was a bunch of people going in and a bunch of people going out, and it shrinks down to a really small door, and I tapped Barbara on the shoulder and said, no, I'm not doing this. So we left, and our guide was a little annoyed with us, because I noticed she didn't come in with us. So then, it was the next day, or no, after we got back from Alexandria, we got back, and she took us to the Red Pyramid, but it's called Dashur, and there was no one there. And you could go inside the pyramid, and I'm still thinking, this is not a good idea. The Mediterranean is earthquake country, Alaska is earthquake country. I'm very sensitive to the notion of earthquakes, and going inside a great big pile of stone that's been standing there for 3,500 years just doesn't seem like a good idea to me. But okay, I womaned up, and we went down into the pyramid, and we took a photograph, and we're there for, not very long before I said to Barbara, time to go! And we climbed back up and got out of there.
What she didn't tell you is first you have to climb all the way up.
Yeah,
in order
the outside.
To go all the way down, which, because the passage is about this tall, you have to do basically all bent over or on your butt, or Dana did it backwards. I did it sideways.
I was raised on a boat. You go down how you go down a ladder. It worked for me.
There was a very nice and very sweet little old man guide at the top, and when we emerged and sat down on the bench, he said to me, I think you're the oldest person that's ever done this. Which is almost surely true, but in any case, when I stood up, and it's not that hard to go up, but it's not that easy to go straight down without any kind of support. When my kids who were in the back there, when we went to Egypt in 2010, they called me old woman with stick because I had a bad knee, and so I had to have help. Anyway, this lovely little man got up, and he stood in front of me, and then he acted like a human cane. So I could put my hand on his shoulder, and we went down. We're talking hundreds of steps here. We went all the way down, bit by bit. Meantime, the guide is sitting in the car. So,
she's no dummy.
Right. Anyway, I have some photos of that, and in the next e-news, I have to get them off my phone. I will do a little feature for you about Dana and then going up and then down and then back up in the Red Pyramid. And this is also part of Death of the Nile. Elizabeth Peters, because she did go to Dashur, and she did go to Saqqara. So Amelia was able to do that.
She had people hoisting her in and out, though.
I know.
Strong men with ropes. We did not have that.
This was my version. Anyway, final question. How many plot ideas did you get from this trip in regard to writing the Eye of Isis?
I'll count to 6. I'll count to 6. I got 6 really good plot ideas from. Don't ask me what they are. They're all written down at home.
The first books, really, isn't that? I think that's really encouraging.
Oh, it was just. It just proves the value of research. There's no substitute for actually going to the place and looking yourself and talking to people. And even though all of the stuff, most of the stuff that we looked at predated Cleopatra by 1,000 to 3,000 years, still it was going to be very much present in her life and the history of the nation that she ruled. So it was phenomenal. It was just probably one of the most useful trips I have ever taken. Thank you, Barbara, for organizing that.
You're welcome. And if you'd like to see some of the pictures, Instagram.com/poisonpenbookstore. You can see I put up hundreds of photos, so you'll have a chance to do that. I might do a program here in the store, where we can do the photos on the TV. But anyway, enough of Egypt. Let's talk about Alaska. Kate 22. Wow, we have been together since Kate 1.
Well, that's when we met at the Edgars in the bathroom. I just won an Edgar, and I have absolutely no memory of this meeting. I don't really have any much memory of that night at all. I was told I gave a pretty good speech. I don't remember a word of it.
I have total recall because the other two people in the bathroom with us were Lisa Scottolini, who lost today, and I wasn't terribly happy, and Nevada Barr, who won the other Edgar. So, you know, it was a memorable night at the New York Hilton on 6th. But anyway, here we are, all these years later.
I was at the other store. The other store, and I was one of you made me come and sign on the sheetrock was it this store? When you opened this store?
Yeah. The first store I don't think you were at.
No.
Second store you were.
When we used to have to go down to the gallery, the art gallery up down the street. Because there was no room in the little store.
That's right.
God, you're 21. How many of you remember the old store? Any of you remember the old
Wow.
store on Main?
Cool.
Right, across from Ollie's. Every day they would start cooking garlic, and it was like,
Yes.
smell marketing. It was so amazing. But anyway, here we are with Kate 22, and we're starting in a terrible blizzard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and but two lovers at Canyon Hot Springs are not quite witness to a horrendous plane crash. And that's not quite, there's a bit of a prologue, but I won't go into that, and let you read it and figure it out for yourself. And then the action starts from there. We don't meet up with Kate until the second chapter, I think it is. So, but there are characters that you know, and I wanted to get a little bit more into their lives and see where they were going and what they were doing. And I really like that first chapter. It's because they go into, he's a paramedic, and they go into phone rescue mode, and she's just the girlfriend, but he just like makes her help, and she proves herself to be extremely valuable and useful, and that's basically the moment when they decide they're going to spend the rest of their lives together.
Cupid at the crash site.
I don't know why I bother titling things. So, yeah.
They don't see the plane crash; they hear the plane crash. It's way up in was it the Keelak?
It's in the Keelak Mountains, yeah.
Right.
And there's it's a blizzard, and you can hear it briefly, but you can't see anything. And so they have to go. I mean, he's an EMT. He's got to go. He has to go look to see if there are any survivors. He's thinking probably not, because in the middle of a blizzard, in the middle of the Keelaks, that's not, your best survivable situation. But he's got to go look, and so they get on the sled, and away they go.
Do we want to tell them what they find, or is that going to be a spoiler?
I don't know. How averse? Okay, all right, never mind. I can see people going, no.
I'm gonna pause. There's some extra chairs up here. If some of you standing there in the back would like to come up, we have about 8 seats over here to my right. And Susan can walk you around to the back, so you don't have to come up through the aisle. But it's a shame to stand up if you don't want to do that. Right.
Come on down.
Hey. So many of you know that Dana has been working on and has succeeded, I might say, in starting a writers retreat. Very nice, it's called, and amazingly, you've managed to get all the funding in place except for the endowment at this point, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you couldn't do the same together. You have to do one thing at a time. And
first, it has to exist.
And it's a lot easier to ask people to give money to an endowment when you have something actually in operation. I can understand that. Anyway, yeah. So, I had this idea in 2005. I wound up with some land. I wanted to buy a piece of property in Homer to build a house on, but the guy who was selling me property would only sell me all 4 of the lots that he had, and I didn't want all 4, but he would only sell me all 4 or none. And okay, fine. So then I was a land baron, and I was like, I don't know, what do I want to do here? And at that same time, in August of that year, as I was finishing, as Scott Bauer was finishing the construction of my house, a friend of mine died, a very dear friend, and a moment like that makes you reevaluate, your goals and the things that you want to do with your life. And the single most important thing that ever happened to me as a writer was to be accepted as a resident at Hedgebrook Farm, which is the only, at present, retreat specifically for women writers. There's lots of retreats for writers, but they're all mixed gender. And Hedgebrook is the only one that is specifically for women. it was such a seminal experience for me. I can't even begin to tell you. I might not have been a professional author when I first went to Hedgebrook, but I was when I left. It was invaluable to me, and I made friends there that are still friends. Oops, sorry. That's me. I'm sorry. That are, in fact, one of the friends that I met at Hedgebrook was the first one who test drove my cabin, which is the template for the Story Night cabin. She came up and stayed 2 weeks and told me everything I did wrong. So I would fix it when we built Story Night. So, I mean, when I say that this was, I can't tell you how important it was, and I know it's important to all the women writers who go to Hedgebrook. Well, they invited me back for their 25th anniversary, at which time they told me they can have as many as 1,400 applications for 40 spaces in a 6-month semester. So there was need. And I came home and I thought, okay, that's what that land is going to be. It's going to be Story Night Writers Retreat. And I incorporated, I formed a board. A wonderful attorney friend of mine wrote our articles of incorporation and our bylaws. And then, in a stroke of genius, may I say, I hired a woman named Erin Coughlin Hollowell, who, if you like poetry, you should read hers because it's good. And she's our executive director, and she brought us the rest of the way. And I thought it would be a much harder sell. I didn't realize that people would get it right away. The people who write the big checks, the foundations who write the big checks, but they got it. They were excited about it. One of them told me when she presented it to the board, said, Dana, it wasn't even a hard sell. It was like they heard about it, that was it, we're going to write a check to these people. And then there are also people like you, many of you in the audience, and many Dana Maniacs have also written checks for Story Knife, and you helped us get it done. And we're going to be in operation as of April 1st.
Wow.
It's my hope that, women writers forever are going to have experiences in Story Knife that were comparable to mine in Hedgebrook, and they will go on to wonderful things, and they'll be down here at this store talking to you in years to come. We're not doing year-round at first, because I have put on a couple of events in Anchorage, one in September and one in February, and it's hard to get people to come to Alaska, not in the summer. So we're going to see how well it goes for 7 months out of the year. And if the demand is great enough and people don't turn white at the thought of coming to Alaska in January, we'll open it up year-round.
More likely they're going to turn blue.
No, they're not. Damn it. The M.J. Murdoch Trust, may they live forever, gave us an enormous grant so that we bring natural gas in to Story Night. And it's toasty warm there right now.
I love it. So back to my original comments about storytelling, I think that the Poison Pen should organize a fundraiser so that we could create one scholarship for a writer who writes mystery to go to Story Night. Because otherwise, it's going to be all poets or literary fiction writers. So soon we will activate a mechanism on our website and so forth where you all can donate to that. But I think it would really be great if we could do that, and we might actually. Well, we'll just call it the Poison Pen Scholarship.
I think it should be the Poison Pen Scholarship. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about you. This is my home away from home. I spend a lot of money here. Along with all of you.
She has a room in our house that my husband got a nameplate for. It's called the Stabenow Suite, where she lives part of the year. But anyway, one of the reasons I brought all that up, without telling you why, is that Dana's experience with all this led to the plot of No Fixed Line, 822. Ho ho.
Because the first thing you do when you find something good and right, if you're a crime fiction writer, you pervert it to evil uses. So I did. And it's someone from Kate's past, and that is reaching out from beyond the grave, trying to screw up her life. And I won't say whether he does, and I won't say whether he doesn't. You'll have to read the book to find out.
It's not just one figure from Kate's past. There's another one, too, that you who've read the whole series will instantly recognize. And to some degree, this is payback for something Kate did years ago, but on the other hand, you don't want it to succeed, right? So there's a lot pretty long-time fans in this book, right?
And the Dana Maniacs among you who I swear read the books with a microscope are going to pick up a lot of details that ordinary people will not. And I did that just for you.
That was wonderful. Do you want to make an announcement about, other than these two books, what other book? I know you put it on Twitter, so it's not a secret.
Yeah, no, it's not a secret. And I told the Dana Maniacs first what I was doing. So, if you, the managers are in the audience today, and you know what? Could the four managers please stand up? Carolyn, Kathy, and Sandy, please stand up and be recognized. Yes! Thank you guys. Now they're all going to turn white when I say this, but if you want to join a group of people who are not so boring, you can hear them, who are not so boring that they only read my books, this is a group that you want to join. They're on Facebook, just the Dana Maniacs, and you have to apply and to be admitted because they want to make sure that you're a real person. That's all that's going on there. And I lurk there. I post there, especially at times like these, I post there a lot. But if I find a really good book, those are the first group of people I tell. And if I'm looking for a new author or a new book to read, that's the first place I go. It's like it's like a 3,300 member book club, basically. It's just, and somebody will start a thread about a book that they've read, and other people will pile on, and they have read the book or they haven't, but they'll talk about it. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the best things Facebook does.
Lost the thread. I'm her editor, so I'm bringing her back here. Okay.
Sorry. What was I talking about?
Well, you were about to announce your third book.
Kathy?
Can we mention the spoiler page?
Oh yeah, and Kathy Rose, they would like us. There's a spoiler page so that you can go and talk about books without fear of spoiling anybody. Only people who have actually read the books under discussion will go to the spoiler page, and the Dana Maniacs managers were very quick to jump in if somebody starts spoiling. So there, Kathy, is that good?
Thank you.
Yes. No. Oh, yes. I told the Dana Maniacs first about this, and sorry, I got off on a segue. I am currently writing the 5th Liam Campbell novel. It's called Spoils of the Dead, and as I told the Maniacs this morning at breakfast, I said, I'm really, really pleased with the plot of this book. Plotting is never my strength, but I always sweat blood to make a book make sense, and I'm really happy with this one. I don't want to tell you anything about it because it's going to be a big surprise to some of you longtime Liam fans, and I'm just going to let it be. But I do post occasional little snippets on the Maniacs page. Not too much because they yell at me if I do. So. Yes, Sandy?
When does it come out?
After I'm done writing it.
After I'm done.
and after Barbara's done editing it.
Could be a while. Probably next year.
Probably,
but,
probably next year.
No fixed date so far.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm hoping it's going to go to Barbara on the first, right after you get back from Malice in May.
Right.
So in May, and which means it will go to the publisher probably June. And it just depends on how fast he can get it out. So you'll be the first to know.
Probably next winter. And the good news is, I think they are going to reissue the first 4 Liam Campbell.
Yeah, actually,
for those of you who haven't had a chance to read them.
The first 4 Liam Campbell novels are actually in publication at Head of Zeus in the UK. And if you want them in paperback, I'm pretty sure they're available in paperback from Head of Zeus on, it has to be amazon.co.uk. So, FYI. Or you can find it in paperback somewhere, although they're charging horrendous prices for some of my backlist in paperback. Just warning.
Or we can import some, so we'll figure that out.
Or your favorite public library.
Oh, there you are.
You know, those books are getting
Excellent
old and beat up, and they're, I volunteer at the Homer Public Library twice a year. When I'm in town, I go on Sundays after the biannual book and plant fair, and I see I'm basically what I'm doing is pulling beat up books off the shelves, so they trust me to do that in the fiction section. And I've seen some of my books come through there, and I've had to pull some of my books because they look like crap, so they've been just really beat up. So I don't know, they're there in some libraries anyway.
And so let's talk a moment about what's going on in Jim Chopin's life. We can do that without creating terrible spoilers.
Well, not too much, yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, well, everybody's read, everybody knows what happened in Less Than a Treason, and Jim is no longer a Alaska State Trooper. And he's bought a plane. He's remembered that he's rich, and he's bought a plane. And he inherited wealth from his father when he died. And he is now carving out a new path in life. But so is Kate. And I don't want to say too much about that either. Kurt Pletnikoff, who runs Pletnikoff Investigations in Anchorage, is also stepping to the fore as a more major character. So I think Kate is going to be working a little bit more frequently for the government.
We get to go flying with Jim. I mean, Dana's knows a lot about flying in small planes around Alaska. Your dad was a pilot, right?
Yeah, I'm not a pilot, but my father was a pilot, and half my friends and family are pilots. So yeah, I know just enough about flying to make myself dangerous. I wouldn't. I know how to Google, and I know pilots that I can ask questions of, and that's, really, I don't want to claim any more experience than that. And I've spent a lot of time in the right seat, but then so have a lot of Alaskans, so I can't claim that I'm, yes.
How about Johnny and Val? Have they gone to college? Are they going to college? Are they going to take over the investigation in the park? What's up, Johnny and Val?
They're in this book. Thank you for asking.
Still there. We probably said all we can say. What questions would you all like? And before I do that, I want to thank again Bluebell Ice Cream and
Yes. And Cece and Kate Henry for coming. I have the best fans who basically now are friends, and they do stuff like this. It just continually astonishes me. I'm really, really incredibly fortunate in the people that I have met in my writing career. It's the best part. It's always the best part of my books. Before we open it up for questions, I'm going to do something that I never do. I want to read a little paragraph from the book because I wrote it just for the fans, just for you guys. So now I need a copy of the book. Jack, can I borrow yours? I should have done this before. I should have looked for where it was.
And now she has to find her glasses. Because we really are two old women who are the threat to the president of Egypt. Right. There we were. Oh, Lord.
Somebody could do a drum roll. Oh my God, the pressure's on.
Has your delinquent niece arrived yet? Dawn, are you here yet? No, Dawn?
No, I'm
Still
she's
shopping?
probably scary. If she is here, she's scary.
You're not going to admit who you are, right?
Okay. Kate and Jim are on the plane, and they're going to find clues about the current case that they are
Need a microphone?
investigating.
Microphone.
Oh, right. Sorry. Forgot. Sorry. Okay. So, what did I just say? Kate and Jim are in the plane, and they're flying around Alaska looking for clues to the current case that they are investigating, and I'm not going to say any more about that. And they are going first to Seldovia, my hometown. And I got in touch with people in Seldovia and said, would they have a problem with doing cameos? And the 4 people I asked said, yeah, sure, go for it. So, this is the part that I want to read to you. The gray skies were continuing to glower with a threat as yet unrealized, so Jim flew a diagonal course over the Kenai Peninsula that debouched into the head of Kashamak Bay. From there, it was 20 minutes until they touched down on the dirt strip on the mountain-lined, thickly forested fjord that managed to look spectacular even on this spring day. Seldovia was a village of 300 people, and at this time of year, they were happy to see anyone new. An attractive older woman named Darlene, who had a twinkle in her eyes and a bubbly manner, gave them a ride to the library. The library was one room in the municipal building, and it was closed, but they found the librarian at home. Her name was Shirley, and she had red hair and freckles and a hardcover copy of To the Hilt in one hand. Naturally, this created an instantaneous bond between Shirley and Kate, and promoted a 15-minute dive down the rabbit hole of crime fiction, which included the relative merits of Dick Francis and Ellis Peters, and the need for decency in crime fiction heroes, which of course created a natural digression into Damien Boyd's Nick Dixon series, with a brief and inadvertent to Adrian McKinty and John Sanford, and just how bad a good detective could be. And this is the last line of that paragraph. People who read are never strangers. And we're not.
There's no way she's going to work something like that into the next Eye of Isis.
I don't know. There's a big ass library in Alexandria. Maybe.
Fair enough. All righty. So, questions. Who would like to ask a question? Please do.
Where are we from?
Oh, okay. Where are we from? Who's the farthest away, do we think? We have Detroit, we have Boston, we have California, Florida.
Tennessee.
Where?
Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Chicago.
Chicago, Tucson.
Miles up the street.
Where? Virginia.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Iowa.
Iowa. Somebody came from Seattle?
I live here now.
No, okay.
I spent 48 years in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay. Georgia. Someone else had their hand up?
Seattle.
Seattle. Yes, I was going to call you out anyway. And she made this bag for the Story Knife Chef to go shopping with. Or Seattle friend.
Dana was hoping that the person who flew in from London, England, a few books back, was here again. Just sounds so cool, right? But still, that's amazing. All these people come all this distance.
I think it's pretty amazing that they drive over from California every single time. But of course they have a designated driver. That'd be Jim.
I'm glad we gave you a beautiful day, which is beautiful.
Cold, but beautiful.
Hey, it's snowing at home.
Yeah.
Nice storm.
Yeah.
Probably better here than, say, Boston right now. But
Chicago's getting 6 inches right now.
or Chicago. I'm
It's a
from
lot better in
Chicago.
Alaska where it's 11 below. My friend Rhonda texted me a screenshot of the weather in Anchorage and said, I am so tired of this.
And it's only January.
And we haven't had a real winter in a long time, so we're not used to it anymore. Our blood is thinned out.
Okay.
Other questions?
How many books do you read in a week?
You couldn't go by
A month.
a month.
Yeah,
in a
say
month.
a month.
You know, it depends. I mean, if there's a bunch of there's a bunch of really good books. I remember once I finished when I was writing Silk and Song. I was doing a lot of research, and so I was reading a ton of nonfiction, and just gobbling up as much as I could, and having to go look for more all the time. And I had a reference librarian on speed dial, and it was like about 1.5 years of that, and I was so exhausted at the end of it, and not really knowing how exhausted I was until Barbara sent out a book news, and there was 5 books on the book news that issue that I absolutely had to read, and so I ordered them all, and then I was still working, so I forgot about it until it showed up just about the day after I finished Silk and Song. And I opened it up, and it was like, oh my God, these are the best books in the whole world! It was the first Nick Petrie book, it was a Bruno book, there was just a whole bunch of really good books. But I mean, if you held my feet to the fire, God, it's different from week to week. I mean, it took me 4 months to read the Churchill biography last year. I mean, now I'm so Churchilled out at this point. After one book, I am never reading anything about that guy again. But I read a lot of fiction, and I can read nobody reads as fast as Barbara or as much as Barbara because that's her job. But it's my primary recreational thing that I do. It's what I love to do more than anything else is read books. And I love to find good books and share them. I'm way better at selling other people's books than I am mine. That's not an answer, but I don't really have one for you. So.
It's close enough.
Sandy, you had your hand up, or somebody did. Carolyn.
My question is for Barbara. Dana told us this morning that you were her editor and reader, and graciously turned down Sandy's offered to do the first read of this, Leah. Can you give us one of your notes for No Fixed Line that you can share with it doesn't actually spoil the book?
Well, there are two levels of editing. One of them is small stuff like words that are skipped or wrong word choice or the rhythm isn't right or whatever. And I can't remember what those are. Unfortunately, the larger issue, which has is legal stuff. If I told you, it would spoil the plot. But we went back and forth. And Dana actually consulted somebody in Alaska because I wasn't qualified to give her as much information as was needed to fix that. I was trying to remember I could tell you about the book before.
Less than the
Thank
treason.
you. Less Than a Treason, which had a lot of backstory about what was going on or didn't go on with Kate during that long absence and so forth. And there was a whole restructure issue. I won't go into it all, but basically I said to Dana, this isn't how this needs to go. This part needs to be somewhere else. It's too long here and it's not enough there. And so the way the book reads to you now is not the way that it read in the original draft. So if you're an editor, basically you're a reader first, just like Dana's was a reader before she writes. And so you have to approach the book as if I were any one of you, and would this be working for me? And I just go with my gut. That's all I got to go with, because there's no real science to editing a book. There aren't any rules. It's not.
It's also 30 years of reading crime fiction under her belt.
But basically, it's saying, is this plot working? And I could give you a better example if you're really interested. I have an author who's just finished her second book, set in New Zealand. And I'm the right editor for her because I've been to Rotorua and I've actually been to Stewart Island. I'm going back to Stewart Island next year, which is at the ass end of the world. If you're at Stewart Island, the next stop is Antarctica. It's at the very bottom of New Zealand. But anyway, in her plot, to make it work at the end, the police have clearly missed two things that they would not have missed. So in order to create the surprise and have the end work, how do we explain that? But fortunately, the ranger who was doing the original investigation was so traumatized by a group of whales that were beached and had to be put down because whales can't swim backwards. So once they get onto a beach, if you can't move them, you basically have to kill them because they die, which was a horrible thing. Anyway, the result, I said to her, he has PTSD after doing this. It was so horrible, and because he had PTSD, he failed to notice there was another person at the scene or a boat over here on the water, which a reasonable person would have noticed both, and then the plot wouldn't work the way it does. So that's the kind of thing you do. And it's the kind of thing Dana can tell you that a writer doesn't necessarily see while you're doing it.
When you're at white heat, you're writing the book, and you're just, particularly after you get to the top of the mountain and everything is all revealed to you, you know what's going to happen to all the characters, you know how the book's going to end, and you're just, I don't even want to think about what the final draft of any one of my books likes, or the rough draft of any one of my books likes. And at that point, you're just too close to the story to be able to figure out anything like that, and you need an eye. A good editor's price is far above reviews. I've never had a book that was not really improved by a rigorous editorial review, and I need an editor that is strong enough to stand up to me, and I got one.
We actually had that discussion because we've been friends for so long. When Dana asked if I would, start editing her, I did say to her, is this going to work? Because, and so far it's been absolutely fine. We've been perfectly civil to each other. No blood has been shed. So it's been good. But Dana doesn't need a whole, she's such a good writer and has been a writer for so long. It's not major surgery. It's more a series of small.
I did need more help with this book. I don't know why. Maybe because I was writing about something, I decided to write about something that was close to me, and also about a topic that is very disturbing to me. There's a subplot that goes along with this. So I needed more help with this book, and I got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always know the ending of the
Almost
books?
always. Dead in the Water, the villain changed on me at the last minute. I got like 2/3 of the way through the book and sat back and thought, oh my God, he didn't do it. So then I had to figure out who did. But that's, thank God, only happened once.
So your next question is, does she write with an outline? And you've already got the answer, right? I know. We had an author review. I think it was really interesting. She's written several books, and she said this book, the idea came to her. The end came to her, and it was a great ending. She's had to write the whole book backwards because she doesn't know how it happened. That can happen. Where you don't necessarily know where a story starts. So sometimes you throw away a lot of stuff getting into it. But sometimes you can have a great idea and then you don't know how you got there. So it doesn't work the same in every book.
It doesn't work the same with every author either.
Right.
You know, I mean, I will cop to saying that most of the time I write pretty good endings. I'm really pleased with my endings. My beginnings are not as great. I could cut a lot more, I think, at the beginning of my books than I do.
Who else? Yes, ma'am.
This is the question for either one of you. I've just noticed within the last 3 weeks, a whole bunch of mysteries that I want to read have come out. And then it seems like there aren't so many for several months. Is there sort of a pattern to when they publish it? Like
Oh my God, I wish you hadn't asked that question. Everybody take cover.
I will forgo my usual rant. I can't even tell you there is a rhythm that I find every year, and every year it's different, and I can tell it about 7 or 8 months ahead of time. I will tell you now, buy everything you can find between now and the second week in June, because the conventions and the election mean that publishers are going to not publish any fiction for about 5 months because they won't be able to get media, they won't be able to get attention, and you all are going to be desperate for things to read.
So are we.
That are so there's I have a weekend coming up. 1 week in May, we start with Jeffrey Deaver, then we have Christopher Moore, and then we have Scott Turow. It's like, I already know what we're doing in June, right? And they're just piling on, and they're piling on close together. But an election year distorts it. Publishers' calendar. Nobody wants to work in August. They're all in Long Island. Nobody wants to work over the holidays, So books tend to come out in clumps, according to when people are working and when they think, she's finally
here. My niece is here. We are shaming her for being late.
How nice of you to come at the very end.
Sorry. Carry on.
We had a concerted plan to shame you for going to the fabric store. Okay. Anyway, the answer is it changes every single year. And so you're right that it is like that, but it is determined by so many extraneous factors. But, the great thing about books is they don't go bad on the shelf.
No, for those of us on fixed incomes, it can be difficult if
I understand, but you know what? They aren't going to disappear.
Well, that's
you
true.
You can buy. If it comes out in January, I can still sell it to you in April. It's okay. Well, I mean, I
But then
understand.
I'd have to start keeping a list rather than impulse buying.
Yeah, I do. Listen, I sympathize, because it's a lot more. I've had to cut the newsletter in half. You got half of it January book news because I can't get it all in. And I'm going to have to do that for February. I can't even get all the February events on one postcard for you. I mean, we basically have an event every day in February.
They're jamming, the publishers are jamming everything in the beginning of the year. And so
And
that
then
they
March,
don't have to
which is
hassle
usually
in
our
advance.
biggest month, has a weird hole in it. So, you just don't know. But I sympathize with you. Keep the newsletters. They stay on, on the
right. I
website.
could go on-
And
I
you
could go
can
on
just
and get
go
them.
back and, and check on them. Right. See, I didn't rant.
I'm amazed at your self-restraint. Well, I've heard the other version.
Like, Easter Monday, what the is that? We don't have Easter Monday, not in this sweatshop. Yes.
you think we've run the course of World War II women spies and
No.
being
No, you know, I think that World War II is the gift that keeps on giving to others. And Ken
Yeah.
Follett said it really well years ago. I've said this before. I was in New York at Thriller Fest. And somebody asked him that question, and he said people will write about it forever. It's the only war in the history of the world where there was clearly a right and a wrong side. The
That's
only one. World War I is filled with ambiguity. You cannot, you know, approach it in anything like the same way. But World War II just goes on, and it's astonishing the facets in any one country. You know, I mean, all the stories that you never heard. So, no,
same with bees.
same with what?
Bees.
Bees.
Oh, bees.
There was Barbara, there was another question.
Sorry, I got distracted by bees. Okay, another question, sorry.
The only thing it really says is on both sides, all the leaves were stupid.
There is a great book by Reginald Hill called No Man's Land that is the best book about World War I have ever read. I've recommended it to anyone. I don't even know if it's in print anymore. Maybe it's on NE. I don't know. But it is worth finding at your library or in used bookstores. It is just phenomenal.
And on February 8th, you can come and see Charles Todd, mother and son. And they're wonderful. And their books about Ian Rutledge, I think, are astonishing about the First World War. So that's a great thing. Yes, ma'am. And Bess, too. I really like those as well. Yes, ma'am.
Two questions, same question though, sort of. How many books do you have in your home? How many books are going to be available at Story Night, and what kind?
The question was, how many books do I have in my home? Honest to God, I don't know. I have been trying to pare them down because I'm trying not to double shelf them. I'm just trying really hard. Honestly, I don't know. I have, you know, the books that I tend to keep on my shelves are the books that are old favorites that my mother and I read together when I was a kid. Books that have been following me around ever since the days we lived on the boat. Because those books are out of print, and and they hold good memories. Books for Story Knife. There's Erin is even now stocking the shelves. The main house is called Eva's House for Eva Salidas, who was a poet who lived in Homer. And hers, I just noticed Erin put a photograph up on Story Knife here recently, just like in the last couple of days, showing that the first books to go on the shelves were Eva's, which I think is very appropriate. And we'll make sure that there's a copy of every one of those on the shelves forever. And you know, my feeling is if people want to walk off with copies, that's fine with me. We'll put them back. That's fine. We'll replace them. But I have been going through my nonfiction section, and I've been pulling out a lot of women's studies books like Witch Craze or The Chalice and the Blade and The Mad Woman in the Attic, because I think those would be useful reference texts for women writers. So those kinds of things. But you know, at Hedgebrook, they have lots of books by alumni. As our residents publish, we're going to encourage them to mail us a copy of their books, and we'll put them up on the shelves. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Is the national park that Kate lives in, is that like the Wrangell St. Elias? Or
It's based on the park that Kate, the question is the park, what park does Kate actually live in? She doesn't actually live in any park because I don't want to have to adhere to someone else's, boundaries. But of course it is based on the Wrangell St. Elias Park. And I wrote the first novel right after I had gone to the Wrangell St. Elias with my aunt, who had been working for a bush pilot at the time, and she quit. And so she asked me to drive up there with her and help her pack up, and move back to Cordova, which I did. The Wrangell St. Elias Park. It is a stupendously gorgeous place.
Spelling.
Yeah. Wrangell, WRANGELL dash Saint, ST period Elias, ELIAS.
Where is it from Cordova?
North. People from Cordova fly into McCarthy all the time.
You didn't drive.
Now, well, you can drive. You have to take the ferry to Valdez and then drive up and then
No, I meant from
go
where
in.
she was to Cordova.
People from Cordova fly in mostly. Yeah.
So I think that we should end. I will tell you a hilarious argument we had last night at our house with my husband. Dana said something about Southeast Alaska is being ruined by cruises and the tourists, and Rob said, the Pacific Ocean's over there. He said, can't be Southeast Alaska, it's Southwest Alaska. And I said, Rob, you're looking that way, you're here looking north. The people in Alaska are north, looking south, and therefore it really is Southeast Alaska. And then I reminded him that my Australian author, I just edited her 10th book, which won't come out for a while, and back to Carol's question, what kind of things do editors do? Story takes place in Boston, and so she said, they left Boston and went up to New York. Sorry. I said, if you're in Boston, you actually go down to New York. And she said, oh, that's right, it's above the equator. So, for those of you doing Alaska geography, it really is Southeast Alaska, even if the Pacific Ocean is right there. So we have a book to give away, and Dana has some things to
I
give
have just
away.
a couple of things to give away this time.
Which is really great. So you should have numbers in your books that are what we use to do this whole operation. While Dana's looking, I will tell you that the book that we're giving away today is a book that she and I both love, an author named Rennie Earth, who is South African and who writes some of the best British mystery ever. Oh, you know what? That's a good idea. Let me say goodbye to our video audience before we bore everybody by giving things away that you aren't here to get. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.